Billy Connolly once said, famously, that there are only two seasons in Scotland, winter and July.
What a voice, what a voice, what a voice I hear. It's like the voice of my beloved dear. But if I had wings like that swallow high, I would clasp in the arms of my belly boy. What a voice, what a voice, what a voice I hear. It's like the voice of my beloved dear. But if I had wings like that swallow high, I would clasp in the arms of my belly boy. When my
Just playing on the beach. Well, as you can see, I've arrived at the fishing bothy, or the hut, the fishing hut that some people prefer to describe it as. And it's not the prettiest fishing hut that I've ever seen. It'd be nice if it had some doors or some windows or a splash of colour. But this photograph is all about the locality. It's all about the relationship that the bothy has and how it sits within its own landscape. Behind you we have the River Helmsdale, which snakes and meanders its way through the hills in front of the bothy and out towards the sea beyond. Now, with it being a Sunday, I'm led to believe, I may be wrong, but I've been told that the Scottish regulations dictate that, or say that they're not allowed to fish for salmon and sea trout on a Sunday. Hence, and that maybe explains why it's so quiet down here today. I was here just a few days ago and there was quite a few fishermen here. And so maybe that explains to me why it's so quiet today. Now, the part of the sky that I want to use for this photograph is unfortunately, it's also currently the brightest part of the photograph. So I just have to wait, I just have to be patient, and I just have to wait for the wind to take the clouds over, which it will do shortly, just to dampen down the highlights in that sky, just so I get a more balanced exposure. Now, I've brought with me today the Nikon D850, which I've set up on a 14 to 24mm lens. Now, the reason I've done that is because there are so many ingredients, there's so many elements that I want to include in this photograph. We have the tree on the right hand side, and I want to include the tree tops at the top and to the side of the photograph, as well as including these two boardwalks, these two wooden walkways, and also I want to include the left hand side bank of the river just to hold the photograph together. So there's lots of ingredients, there's lots of elements in this photograph, and they all have to work together. So that's the reason I've bought my 14 to 24mm lens here. The only filter I'm going to put on today is the polarizer, just to take the glare off the tops of the water. There's no benefit to using a graduated filter. It will just interfere with the trees. And I could put a neutral density filter on just to slow the effect of the water down, but there's such a breeze that it would, and the tree leaves and the branches are moving, it would just soft focus them or make them all out of focus. So I'd much prefer to keep those sharp and just to keep the water, keep the energy in the water. So it's all set up to go. I've got f11, which means that I've got enough depth of field. Having used PhotoPills app, I've got enough depth of field to get everything in focus here. So what I'll do is I'll take you behind the camera to show you exactly what I've described and the benefits of using this lens and the reasons that I've chosen this lens. So I'll take you behind the camera just to show you. Okay, so here we've got the lens at 14mm, and you can see here what I mean. I wanted to include the treetops to the right, to the top of the photograph, and also to the right. I wanted to include it so that there was space at the top and on the right hand side, just to make it a clean image on that top right hand corner of the image. And then of course in the middle here we have the two wooden walkways, which is an important part of the photograph, and I just wanted to include those. And also lastly, I mentioned the bank on the left hand side. I just wanted to include the bank on the left hand side just to hold the image together. Now if I zoom out of here and I go to a much more of a crop, you can see here how by doing so I'm cutting off the tree and almost cutting off the riverbank, which I don't want to do. So if I just zoom out, you can just begin to see how by zooming out there, it just makes it a much more balanced, tidy, clean image. So back at the car. I hope you enjoyed that little video of the fishing hut. There was lots of elements in that photograph, lots of ingredients, which they all had to come together, they all had to work together and combine to make a balanced, interesting photograph. And that's not always the case up here. It's not always that busy. There's not always that those so many ingredients to the photograph. The land up here in the northern Highlands where I am today, it's vast open space, and that quite often is what I try to convey in my photographs. So what we're going to do is we're going to jump in the car, we're going to go to a different location, and this location will be a lot more convey this open space, spaciousness, vastness that is so typical of this part of the Highlands. So let's jump in the car and see where it takes us. So I've arrived at my next location. I've driven much further, much deeper into the remote, bleak Highlands of Scotland. And it is just beautiful. And the reason I'm here is that there's a derelict building which is set in amongst this bleak, remote landscape. And I just love the relationship that it has with its locality. We've got the mountains in the backdrop, we've got the derelict building in the foreground, and it's just beautiful, and I love it. So I can't wait to get up onto the hill and shoot down and show you what I've seen. Come on, let's go.
There is a blackbird sits on yon.
Now, I'm not going to pretend that this is not a simple shot, but it's the simplicity of the photograph that to me makes it more powerful, because there's only two ingredients in this photograph: the derelict building and the mountains beyond. It's all about the relationship between the bothy, or the derelict building, and its locality, its relationship with the landscape. So it's going to be a nice, clean, simple image. So all I have to do now is compose it, wait for the right lighting conditions, and take the photograph. Now, I've changed cameras from earlier on. I've got the Fuji 50 GFX Mark II on here with a 32 to 64mm lens. So I'm just going to compose it from here to get all of this sweeping landscape in the photograph. So let's give it a go. I'll show you on the back of what I'm doing. So you can see here I've positioned the house on the bottom left third of the photograph. The reason being is that to me is naturally where it should be. The gables are facing inwards towards the mountains and the ridge line, and so positioning the house on the bottom third is the natural place for me to put it. And I can see that the sky's slightly blown out, so it may just be a case that I have to take two photographs, one to expose for the sky and then the other to focus for the expose for the landscape, and just combine those two in post-processing. But we'll see how it goes. Another point here about this photograph is the road. It's quite clearly there, and but for me it doesn't really detract that much from the image, and so I'm quite happy to keep it. There is an argument sometimes that you can clone that out and just make it all grass, but I'm more than comfortable and happy with the road being there, and so I shall leave it there. So let's just see how that process is. Well, that's the end of the video. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you've enjoyed it as much as I've enjoyed being here and showing you this gorgeous, beautiful, bleak, barren, fantastic landscape of Assynt. And if you have, then please consider subscribing to this new channel. It's a channel which is going to be showing you and sharing with you my experiences as I travel through the Highlands of Scotland, the Northern Highlands particularly. And I'd love to have you along. But I'm going to go home now because it looks as though it's going to absolutely chuck it down with rain. I'm going to go home, and I hope to see you very soon. But for now, bye-bye. I'll leave you with the landscape.